You are listening to the Jam Price Show, all about movies. And today, my guest is Jimmy Giannopoulos. And we're going to be talking about his brand new film entitled The Birthday Cake. Welcome to the show, Jimmy.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good, 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 good. This is a fun movie, interesting movie. It's got a lot to it, lots of layers, great cast, a really great cast. So I'm anxious to talk to you about this film. Can you give our audience a little brief synopsis of what The Birthday Cake is all about?
Yes, the birthday cake is about our protagonist Giovanni, it's the 10-year anniversary of his father's death, and every 10 years the family has a celebration at Uncle Angelo's house, his uncle's house, and Gio always goes every year and as a part of the tradition to celebrate his father's memory. And I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to say I don't want to say too much stuff, but he basically, he, as part of the tradition, he carries a cake that his mom always makes for him. He brings it to the party, and on this day, as the day sort of unravels, he runs into different people from the neighborhood, and he slowly starts to kind of piece together what happened to his father. And it's a movie that takes place over the course of one night. It's contained in one neighborhood, and it's like, it's old, like kind of has like an old school Brooklyn neighborhood sort of feel, which actually isn't old school. It's what we shot on location there in Bensonhurst. It's what it's like. um but yeah, essentially that's the story.
That's the story. All right. Yeah, and there's a lot more to it. So people
A
will
lot
have
more
to
to it,
watch it.
yeah.
People
A
have to
lot more
watch
to
this
it,
movie for
yeah.
sure. For sure. All right. So there's lots to dive into here because, well, I'm from New York. So I recognize, well, I haven't been there in a long time, but recognize a lot of those places in New York. So how did this script, because you're the co-writer on this script as well as the director, um how did this script develop? How did the idea germinate, and how did it come up? Can you talk a little bit about that process and the story itself?
Yeah, so when I was younger and we would go to a family get together, the kids, the youngest people in the family always carried the cake to, it was the tradition. You bring it to the family's house, you bring them a dessert, or what we made, my mom would make little cakes of desserts and we would bring them. And I was the youngest, so I had to carry them. So and then I remember when I started getting older, the older, some of the kids, it's probably just one memory that I've turned into a million in my mind. But I remember somebody, like one of my cousins or somebody, making fun of me because I was carrying the desserts, and they're like, "Oh, you're still a kid." And then I remember thinking, I don't want to carry that anymore, but my mom kind of made me, so it's like she kept me young, but I wanted to grow up and get older. So that idea I've always remembered that dynamic of like bringing it. It's like the youngest person does it, and so I always remember that sort of thing I had to do. And then living in Brooklyn for the last 15 years, you know, I grew up watching and loving mob movies, and just like everybody else, and you go and you see all like the classic spots, that, for example, like in my neighborhood, you know, in the movie, what is that movie? I think it was Donnie Brasco. So that mob family worked, they kind of like maneuvered in that neighborhood. It was a spot in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. And I remember a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's the social club that they all used to hang out." And then you start to meet the people in the neighborhood, and then you start to see that those old school guys are still around, and I, friends with a lot of them, and you Google them and you see their history, and you see like, organized crime in that time, and these guys were players. And like, but for me, it seems like it was so long ago, like that wasn't even in our lifetime. It's something you read about in books, but you're there. And then, so you're in these neighborhoods that are basically just these gentrified neighborhoods that not all of Brooklyn by any means at all, like some specific pockets, but you see a bunch of hipsters, you know what I mean? And then when you look a little carefully, you see like an old man walking down the street or something, and you give him a good look, and you notice what he's wearing, and you notice how he's, and then you talk to him, or you hear him talking, and you're like, and you start to realize, oh, these guys are still here, you know, they're kind of everywhere, but you got to look carefully to spot them, you know. And so, you know, the idea of doing a movie that had, you know, like a mob movie in Brooklyn, to me, I'm like, it's impossible to do it modern day because I don't see it, I don't know it, you know, I don't know how it exists. Like, I could make things up, you know, but I was trying to, like, you know, you want to do something, you know, and you see. So once I started seeing that thing right in front of me everywhere, I'm like, oh wow, that actually. And then I dig a little deeper in, you're like, that still does exist here, very much so. You just got to know where to look. And, you know, I started marrying all these ideas together, like what I said about carrying the cake as a kid, and then this neighborhood here. And then these ideas just started slowly coming together. And then the original idea was conceived.
And you wrote this with your lead actor, Shiloh Fernandez.
Correct.
He had a hand in some of this, and also I'm going to mispronounce the name, so why don't you say your other co-writer's name?
His name is Raul Bermudez.
Okay.
That's what, you know. Yeah.
All right, I guess I had another name in front of that one, so I knew
Yeah.
I knew I'd butcher that.
Diomedes. I think
Yes.
it's Diomedes.
Diomedes. So I knew I'd butcher that one. And yeah, so you wrote it with them, and you said when I was doing the research that Shiloh had a pretty big hand in the development of his character for sure. So talk about that process between, you know, having an actor sort of take an active role. You've started writing this, and then he starts taking an active role in creating his character more. So talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so essentially, I mean, you know, when you really break it down, it's the story of somebody, you know, around Shiloh's age, who has been protected from like family secrets their whole life, you know. And then you start to find out things that you weren't told as a kid, and you start to realize them when you're older, and those things have consequences, and they change, you know, dynamics, and how you just everything in your life. So I think it was, you know, for Shiloh, that part was really easy to get his sink his teeth into, and understand, like, you know, this character, like the root of this character, and what they're going through, and how they're reacting to it. And he was able to, you know, I think, you know, that's how I saw him taking it. That's how I saw him, you know. Actors are they look at, you know, they always impress me how they look at the role, because I don't look at it like that. I'm looking at it from a different way. But when they get into it, they're like, you know, they look for their arc, and you know, what their history, their backstory. So I think he was able to really connect to like the family element of it, and his relationship with his mother, and his father, and stuff like that. And he just kind of took
It over from there. Well, you have an amazing cast, so we are going to get into this amazing cast that you have, and many of them are just in cameos, but they're all like stand out in their little small moments in the film. But you have the wonderful Lorraine Bracco, who I had the opportunity to have dinner with when I used to live in New York a long time ago, with her then husband Harvey Keitel, so you know how long ago that was. And I've always admired her work, and that the relationship between Gio and his mother is just such a beautiful relationship. So you want to talk a little bit about that and how that evolved, and how you attracted Lorraine Bracco to this project.
So yeah, I mean, Lorraine, obviously she's, you know, she's one of the greats, you know. She's amazing. And she, you know, when we're thinking of this role, you know, this is the mother of someone who grew up, you know, in organized crime, essentially, you know. And Lorraine, you know, her name pops up like she's at the top of the list, you know, when you think of just like who can I go to? Aside from just being like just an amazing actor, anything she does, but she, going back to Goodfellas and The Sopranos and stuff like that, like I'm such a huge fan of both of those and everything she's done. But she was just a no-brainer. I just pictured her. Myself and Raul, we just pictured Lorraine. We were like, this is like Lorraine. But Lorraine, so same thing, kind of like in a way how a lot of actors like will look at roles. It was really impressive, when she was looking at her role, like she was like, this is my son. This is a mother and son on the anniversary of the love of her life's death and Gio's father. And when she was reading the script and we were talking about it, she's like, I have this moment with my son, this anniversary. She's like, I feel like we should do something. Maybe we should have a dance to our favorite song or something. And she just started kind of, injecting it with something that only a person who was a mother would know how to do, again, like, I didn't, you think of how my relationship with my mother or whoever it might be, but like she took it to another level and really brought some humanity and just like a love, and they had great chemistry together. And I mean, that was one of my favorite days to shoot, for sure.
It's a very, very touching scene, and yeah, it just tells you a whole lot about their relationship, and it's a beautiful scene. It really is. You've got, as I said, I'm going to go through all these cast members because it's absolutely amazing. I'm going to go to one of my all-time favorite actors, and that's Ewan McGregor. How did you get him to play the priest in this film?
So when we asked Ewan, like, he read the script and I think he connected to the character. He understood what his character's role was, in the film, and how important it was. And and a priest in a lot of these sort of neighborhoods, they're like the eyes of the neighborhood, because they know everybody's business, and information is power, so I think he just connected and he liked it, and it was great working with him, and especially working with him and Lorraine on the same day.
Oh, the same day. Oh my God.
That day was wild. That day was great. Yeah, I mean, it was a real treat.
I can imagine. And he's the narrator of the film.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is also quite, amazing that you were able to get him to also be your narrator.
Yeah, he's as talented as he is as an actor. He's as committed as somebody can be to a art project, which, I tip my hat to that. He's in it fully.
Well, it's, yeah, I totally agree, that's the way it should be. It's not always the case, but that's
no,
the
it's
way
not
it
always the
should
case.
be. Yes.
Yeah.
Some actors are, always a little different.
It's like that. It's like that with everything. It's like that with everything.
It's true. It's true. It is like that with everything. So, okay, so we have Val Kilmer that we haven't seen in a long time, and as many people know, he's been suffering with throat cancer and has to speak through a microphone in his throat. So let's talk about that, because that was a really interesting choice to cast him in this particular role. And if you want to let the audience know what role he plays, I think that's
Val Kilmer plays the role of Uncle Angelo, who is the mob boss of the town. And it's like we were saying earlier, it's equivalent to what organized crime boss would be today. Maybe once upon a time they were booming, they had, but now it's it's cracked down. All the RICO cases took a lot of them away, but there's so it's more like grounded, realistic, but it's still, and you get someone like Val in there who it's a no-brainer. He's just, I mean, he's just, a lot of people don't, maybe he's a Juilliard. This guy is such an amazing actor. He, from Batman to working on on his Mark Twain project, like he can do anything, and he's just such an expressive actor and a powerful force. And when he came on set, when we were shooting with Val, there was some days where we're shooting and there's a lot of the gangster family, a lot of sort of guys like playing macho guys, like doing all this stuff. And and a lot of these guys are like, they're some of them are kind of tough guys. When Val walked in, it's undeniable, he just earns everyone's respect, as an artist, and as his presence, and he came up with this one part, day of, I don't want to ruin it, but there's a part when he sits down and he speaks with Gio about why he has long hair. Val is explaining to him, you want to know why I have long hair? And then Val does this great moment with him and has this great moment with Gio. And it's something that Val just came up with right before. And he's not only is he a great actor, great presence, he looks great. He is adding, like, he's writing, he's adding to the story, he's injecting himself fully in, like I said with you, and like committing fully, like, this is a team, like, I want to help, let's all go for it. I have these ideas. And for me, coming from music, I love collaborating. I love hearing when somebody's in the room and they have a great idea and they don't speak out, that's the shame. And Val, he did a lot. He's an amazing actor. And I don't know, I don't want to give I don't want to give up too much on him, but it was really great working with him. And I think that people are going to be surprised by him. Like, it's going to be a treat, He's not, I haven't seen, it's like you said, like he's been kind of laying low for a little while, and just watching him back, even when I watch the film, when I see him come on screen, I remember why I like him so much as an actor.
It is a nice surprise, and it is good to see him. And I'm sure that for him, losing his voice, which is what acting is about, and not being able to do what he had done in the past, and now overcoming that, and to be in this role, to have that just be fine. It's integral to his character in a way, it is. And so it is a joy to see him back on the screen, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And there's a wonderful story about he and Paul Sorvino, which I also love, and he's absolutely great in this too. Tell us a little bit about that story, because I thought that was really, again, doing the research, I thought that was a really interesting story about both of them when they finally met each other.
Oh, when they met each other on
Yes.
on set.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, no, Raul, our producer, when they first went and he brought, so this is coming secondhand because I wasn't there when they first met each other, but if I remember correctly, I remember Raul was moved and he said to me, he's like, I told Val that Paul was here, and Val was like, oh my God, I was watching Paul Sorvino on Goodfellas for this role, because in Goodfellas, Paul says, his character says something along the lines like, when you're the toughest guy in the room, you don't have to talk much. He never talked much. I forgot the quote, Paul never had to talk much, everyone just knew it. So he kind of studied him, and he's a huge fan of Paul Sorvino's from the beginning. And then when Raul told Paul that Val was there, it was mutual, and then when he brought them together, I guess, Val went down next to him and they had a really nice moment. And from what I understand, it was a really cool moment to see these two like amazing artists, meet. I think maybe for the first time. I don't remember.
It sounded like it was the first time that they had met.
Yeah.
Oh,
but they both like knew each other.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, but yeah, so they knew each other from they were
From their
fans
work.
of each other from their work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't there. I was in the other room trying to get the next scene ready.
Too bad, too bad. Because it sounded like, they both just admired each other's work through the years. And I think they both took a great deal of joy out of the fact that after all of both of their very long careers, that they were finally working together. And it
Yeah.
just sounded like a joyful, beautiful, poignant moment when they actually met. So I just love that story. Again, you've got so let's talk about some of these other people that you've got. Aldous Hodge in it, you've got Penn Bagley in Bagley, is that how you say it? And all kinds of interesting people. So let's talk about all of these wonderful people that you've put together where they're just cameos.
Yeah. Yeah. I when we first started discussing how we wanted to cast the movie, a lot of these characters, we wanted them to be not throwaway characters. We wanted, sometimes you watch a movie and somebody comes in the film and they're just kind of deliver, they're there to move the story forward, but we wanted to do a little more and kind of build an ensemble with these characters that we always envisioned, for these roles. So we got it to the script to the right spot, and then we went, like Penn Badgley, for example. His character, when we were writing it, we named him Pino, because we were like, all right, it's going to be Penn. So what's the, so because we knew we were writing it for him. And I come from music, so we put out a record together, me and Penn. We actually toured we went
Oh,
all over the place. So I've known Penn for a long time. So when I called him and I sent him the script, he was really supportive because he knows I come from music. So he actually was like, I love when people from music go into film, he was really supportive. And so Penn hopped on, that's kind of how a lot of people hopped on, just friends I known from the past and from music and from the neighborhood or, wherever, and just kind of started calling people up. And somebody who I didn't know who really blew my mind was John Magaro. So Shiloh said we should really get John Magaro for this role, for one of the roles of one of the family members, his cousin. And I knew a little bit about John, but not too much. But when he was on set, I think everybody whenever he, we gave him some room to kind of do his own thing with it, and everybody was just watching him. He was so good. He really elevated and just kind of got into the character, and he really added some texture and some spice, so he's an amazing actor. Since then I've become a huge John Magaro fan, and it was cool having him. Everybody was such a treat. I mean, every day on set was like we were shooting a new film, because we just have this ensemble. It just hits and hits and hits, and every day people were bringing new ideas, and so every day was like a new locations, on location, in New York, on the street, so we got all these different artists coming through, these actors, and Sean Price Williams is the DP. We both live there in Brooklyn, so we're like on our stomping grounds, like with people we know, and and he's whipping the camera around in the streets, we're running around. It was great. It was so much fun. It was cold. It was a really
knowing.
amazing snowing. It was such an amazing experience. Yeah. And people really brought their A game. I think they, at the end of the day, like everyone, believed in the story and the script, and everyone really knew their part and were prepared, and we showed up, and we just.
It shows. It really does. Jimmy, where can people see this film, The Birthday Cake? Where can they see it?
So it comes out on June 18th in theaters and VOD.
Great. Great. Well, everybody seek out the birthday cake. Thank you so much for being on the show. I wish you much success. It's a really, really fun movie in many ways. I mean, there's a lot to it, but it's fun to see all of these great actors and all of these wonderful cameos,
Cool.
and it's really fun. So
Thank you for watching it.
Oh, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. So enjoy. If you have missed any of the Jan Price shows all about movies, they are archived on my website, thejanpriceshow.com. Also, you can listen on the iHeart Podcast Network, the Apple Podcast Network, Spotify, anywhere where you get your favorite podcast. We are there. You can also check our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Jan Price Show. Thank you for listening.